It's been pouring with rain for days, and it's scheduled to be absolutely tipping it down tomorrow when I'm at work outside. So anyway, I'm just off out with the dog. I'm just emptying my pockets. But every cloud has a silver lining, as we will see in a very short time. And here is something of what we're looking for. This is the shaggy parasol, identified in my wild edibles video. Edible, makes a good edible fungus, and that's what the silver lining of all this wet, cloudy, rainy weather brings. And I'll show you more examples, in fact massive examples we're on our way to. Come off there, come off there. Good dog. These are not shaggy parasol, I think these are field mushrooms, but we've got to be very, very cautious when we're looking at mushrooms like this. We've got to check that the underside is brown or pink. There's a pinkiness there. I don't want to just pinkiness on the underside there. This one's not a good example, and they're not good examples here. I'm going to pick them from somewhere else, but that's the field or the horse mushroom. But as with all mushrooms, when we get them back, we don't eat them hastily in the field unless we're absolutely sure. Wild parsley, I take the stalks. I'll be starting the fire when I get back. It's not on at the moment, so we'll use them stalks until they run out, and then the nettle stalks will be useful until they run out, and then we'll start using the rosebay willow herb stalks. There's always something. Okay, so here we are. We're now on scene, and there are just hundreds of mushrooms. But the thing is to be able to positively identify them. And that's good here because you can see them in various stages of development, from the little buttons to the big mature specimens. Now it's right on the edge of a footpath, so a lot of them have been knocked over. And with a white top mushroom like this, we're looking for pinky brown gills. If the mushroom has white gills, do not touch it. There's a very, very high probability that it will be a deadly poisonous fungus. But here we have the pinky brown gills, and we can see that. Now in the very young fungus, you may not see the gills because this white shield here will be enveloping them, and that's what turns into the skirt around the stem. You can see there, clearly see that skirt, which when the fungus is young, it's covering all those gills up. So this is the field or the horse mushroom. We'll get it back and positively identify it. It's always dodgy eating a fungus in the field unless you're absolutely sure you know what it is. And it's not just a case of thinking you know what that fungus is, it's knowing whether there are any poisonous relatives. Because if you look at these, these fungus all do look very similar, but in different stages of development or with different formation conditions, fungus can develop, the same fungus can look different, either over time or due to the conditions it's in. Somebody here has been taking matters into their own hands and killing off a lot of the ivy. Oh, she's in the water. Come out of there. Anyway, so they've chopped the ivy off here, and there's a big gap, and then the ivy goes on up. So this is quite thick, and ivy is quite a good bow drill material. And I happen to know that this was cut off quite a long time ago. So I might come back and harvest this for use as a bow drill, or even something I've never tried because I've never been confident that I would succeed, but as a hand drill. You see a new piece of ivy growing up here from the, probably from the old roots. But this bit's clearly dead now, and this bit here is certainly dead. So I'll take a good bit of that before the beetles get into it. That's another yew tree, must be about one of the biggest in this wood. There are not that many big yew trees about. Behind it, what's that? Beech tree, but it's on the skids, isn't it? That's on the skids, that beech tree. What's that? That looks like an oyster, old oyster fungus. Big one. Old oyster fungus type thing. I think this tree's had it. It's alive now, but top's missing, and I think its days are numbered. Still, it'll give this oak a bit of light, won't it? The beech will go, the oak will grow. There's another beech there. There's plenty of beech in this wood. It's mainly beech. The bigger, older trees are mainly beech, and a lot of those have been chopped down for wood. Chopped down for logs to burn. Big trees like that, chopped down just for the logs to burn. When you see a little white blob like that, you think, oh, that could be a mushroom, could be a stinkhorn coming up. But in this case, no. We're in the woods. But it is, in fact, a golf ball. And I can. I'm not on litter detail today, unless it's of use. Actually, that is of some use, but when I decide to use them, I'll come in here and clear up the aluminium cans on a larger scale. I've got to get back now. Right, I'm going to an area where there should be another feast of fungus. I've been here before. Jess, come here. I'm going to put the dog on the lead, because if I express an interest, she'll want to be into it, and she'll trample all over them. Come here. Good dog. Stay. 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 Good dog. Good one-handed capture there. Right, so we've seen these before, and when I first saw these before, I wasn't absolutely sure what they were, but now I am sure, and we're getting a second flush, and there's a lot more of them, and that's all down to the recent incredibly wet weather. So that's the silver lining to this cloud. And we're going to get more downpours tomorrow, and I'll be outdoors in it all. So we're going to pick just a couple of these and leave the rest. If I could, I don't have the freezer space to put them in the freezer, although we might just try just one little box full just to see how they freeze. But as I may have said previously, what I really want to do is try dehydrating them, but I haven't got a dehydrator at the moment. I'm just going to try and get the dog through here without smashing them all to pieces. Go on, get through there. Go on, go on. Good dog. Good dog. Right. Hook the dog on a tree here. And I'll tell you, I've had a project planned now. In fact, just let me get that dog hooked up. Right then, so I have had a project planned now for quite some time, and it is colloidal silver. So I'm forcing my own hand here in a way, making myself get the job done, because I've been mucking about with it for quite a while. So hopefully that's what my next video will be on, colloidal silver. Now I think it is very important, and I know it does work. Now the extent to which it works is debatable, but there's a lot of good evidence, and it was the antibiotic before antibiotics. So for any survivalists, self-sufficiency people of that mentality anyway, it's a very important topic. So in a week or so, two maybe, I'll have a lot more to say about that. But in the meantime, it's worth you just looking it up. Just see what you think. Colloidal silver. Hopefully that's what my next project will be. I have been working on it, as I say, for quite a while. I've just keep getting diverted. It's easy to get diverted, isn't it? Right. Pick a few of these shaggy parasols then, and may experiment with freezing them. So I've got my mushrooms home, and I'm doing some identification through the books, and I'm taking a closer look at what I've got. And these ones here are the shaggy parasol, and I'm happy that they are in fact the shaggy parasol. These ones here, which I thought were horse or field mushrooms, are in fact of the agaric family. But there is a mushroom that I could have got them confused with, and that's the yellow staining mushroom. And the yellow staining mushroom is, as the name suggests, the mushroom will stain yellow if bruised. So if I take a fork to the cap of these mushrooms and I damage it, you'll see there that within seconds it has in fact stained yellow. That's definitely bright yellow. I've done it earlier on and the yellow has now turned to a brown, but freshly stained it is in fact yellow. So that would suggest it's quite possibly a yellow staining mushroom. It should stain more vigorously at the base. So I'm going to cut through the bottom of the mushroom there. Strangely enough, that's not so pronounced yellow. In fact, it's hardly yellow at all. Let's try this specimen here. Straight through the very base of the mushroom. Well, I would say that's a reasonably convincing yellow. But I know through other people's experiences that the field or horse mushroom can stain yellow, especially on the cap. Although I would have been happier if it would have stained red, straight away red or straight away brown, then I would have been happy that it was in fact the field or horse mushroom of the agaric family. But as it is, it's looking like it's the yellow staining mushroom. There's one other test for that, and that's a chemical smell. Now, I buy bars of soap, but I buy it in quite large quantities, and what I buy is carbolic soap. And that has that distinctive carbolic acid taste about it. And if I take this mushroom and I damage it significantly, and I smell it, it does have that hint of carbolic about it. So that leads me to believe that this is not the field or the horse mushroom, but is in fact the yellow staining mushroom, which will cause gastric problems. It'll cause people to be sick. A lot of people will be violently sick within half an hour of eating this mushroom. However, I've got to confess I'm not one of them, because I have eaten this mushroom quite recently, thinking it was a field or horse mushroom. And I didn't... I wouldn't say I didn't feel anything, but it didn't make me ill, and it certainly didn't make me sick. So some people can eat this mushroom without being ill. It's probably a bit like an allergic reaction. But this is a lesson how easy it is to misidentify a fungus. So, fortunately, you could not get this confused with an amanita mushroom, which would be deadly poisonous, because on my first inspections I looked at the gills. The gills are pink to brown, and in later dying fruits the gills can be black. It has the skirt, which on these young versions are covering the gills, but on the later versions will just clump around the stem. So it's not a deadly poisonous mushroom, but it is a mushroom to be avoided, and it looks entirely like a larger version of the button mushroom, which is an agaric. It looks like it's the field or the horse mushroom, which is an agaric, but in fact it's looking very likely that it is the yellow staining mushroom, which again is an agaric, but a one that's not edible to a lot of people and will cause them to be violently sick, or at least some people it will cause to be violently sick. So we're going to put this one off the menu for the time being, and we're going to stick with the shaggy parasol, and we're going to just let that be a lesson to myself and hopefully you at how easy it is to misidentify a fungus and how easy it would be to make yourself ill. So there's a little bit of slotted in, I think. Oh, just as another side note as well, while I was getting the vehicle MOT'd yesterday, I went into a park. While I was waiting, I went into a park that I don't often go into, so obviously as you do, you check all the trees and see what's there, and I found these sweet chestnuts, quite large enough to worth harvesting, almost as large but not as quite as large as the shop bought versions that I had to get to complete my previous video. So needless to say that despite their smaller size, these ones are going to taste much nicer because I harvested them myself.
and I'll probably just boil these ones, split the shells and put them in boiling water. Right, that was a slight interruption to the normal programme because I've done my studies. Get home, do your studies, do not eat anything in haste out in the field. Be sure of what you're eating, especially with fungus.